What up, I be in the building, and we back for another video. Back for another playoff preview of the 1-8 series in the West, the Lakers versus the Portland Trailblazers. Now this is one of the series of this playoffs with the most star power on the court at any given time. Some important points to break down here: the contrasting styles between the two teams. When you look at the Blazers, they're a team that really heavily relies on offense and their defense is atrocious. And on the flip side, the Lakers, their success is heavily attributed to their defensive dominance throughout the season. And when you particularly look at their offense in the bubble, that has been shaky. So these are two teams that have emphasis on different sides of the ball. In terms of scoring, the Blazers mainly do it from the perimeter. They're 27th in the entire league in terms of points in the paint, but a lot of that comes with not playing with Jusuf Nurkic, so they'd have to rely more on their perimeter-oriented players throughout the season: Dame, CJ, Gary Trent, Anthony Simons, while the Lakers emphasize scoring in the paint when they have LeBron, literally one of the best players at getting to the rim, if not the greatest player of all time at getting into the paint. Anthony Davis, a big man who, yes, can stretch the floor in terms of three-point shooting and mid-range shooting, but is definitely at his best when he can get an open look inside. Two rim-running lob threat bigs in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. Given the star power for these two teams, we have to look at how these teams will try and defend the opposing superstars. How will the Lakers guard Damian Lillard? He's on a tear coming into the playoffs. Granted, a lot of those games are against lower tier teams that aren't as good defensively as the Lakers. The Lakers have multiple good perimeter defenders, but none of them are elite. Danny Green, he's a good perimeter defender. KCP is a good perimeter defender. He may not be as savvy as Danny Green, but he's a bit quicker on his feet. Alex Caruso is pretty disruptive. I remember seeing a Portland Trailblazers game and they had Alex Caruso guarding Damian Lillard for most of that game when he was in the game. This was earlier in the regular season, and he did a pretty good job in terms of making him work. So even with those good perimeter defenders, the Lakers still might have to trap Damian Lillard in pick and roll opportunities and try to force everybody except Dame. They're going to have to make them beat them instead of Damian Lillard. Or instead of that, they can just guard high as possible on the pick and roll. You do not want to let Damian Lillard get an inch of space on the perimeter. You don't want him to kill you with threes. So guard high as possible on the pick and roll and funnel him inside, because you have this three-headed monster of big men down low that are great rim protectors in Anthony Davis, JaVale McGee, and Dwight Howard. And a lot of times, two of those players will be in the game. That will probably be their best method of success in terms of slowing down Damian Lillard. The Lakers were first in blocks per game this year, so they're going to have to play to their strengths and try to funnel Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum inside on pick and rolls. And it's not like the Portland Trailblazers have a center that can really space them out like that. Nurkic is a good mid-range shooter. He took a couple three-point shots throughout the bubble, but I don't think that's really anything that'll scare off Anthony Davis and JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard from sagging off of him and helping on Damian Lillard drives. So on the flip side, the opposing superstars on the Lakers are LeBron James and Anthony Davis. How the hell are the Blazers going to stop Bron? How are they going to guard him? Because they literally do not have any personnel to guard LeBron. The type of player that is needed to slow down LeBron is a player between the heights of 6'7" and 6'10", who's athletic and a good defender, obviously. Strong, athletic, good defender between the height of 6'7" and 6'10". The Portland Trailblazers do not have that. I mean, washed up Trevor Ariza somewhat could fill that bill, but he's not with the team anymore. They're gonna have Melo guarding LeBron in the starting lineup. If they're gonna keep their same starting lineup that they've been playing throughout the bubble of Dame, CJ, Melo, Zach Collins, and Nurkic, they're gonna have Carmelo Anthony guard LeBron. Now, Melo's already been known as a defensive weakness earlier in his career. Now that he's older and slower, I don't think that's gonna get any better for them. LeBron is going to be able to get to the rim at will. He's going to draw a lot of fouls on the Blazers' big men of Nurkic and Whiteside and Zach Collins. On the chances that the Blazers' bigs will be able to get in front of Bron and meet him before he gets to the rim, there's going to be a lot of drop-off passes and lob passes to Dwight, JaVale, and AD. So I think the Lakers will get a lot of easy offense inside, efficient looks, because of they don't have anybody to stop triple penetration from LeBron. And another option is just helping as much as possible and forming a wall for when LeBron does drive, and just daring the Lakers shooters to hit corner threes. And the option of forming a wall and daring the Lakers shooters to beat you is a viable option because of how inconsistent the Lakers shooting has been throughout the year, and especially how cold they've been in the bubble. I wouldn't be surprised if the Blazers just say, fuck it, let Danny Green, Caldwell Pope, Caruso, Kuzma hit or miss from outside, and they'll live with the result either way. Now, in terms of Anthony Davis, who one of the Blazers will guard him, Anthony Davis is a matchup nightmare. He starts at power forward because the Lakers roll out the two big lineup with JaVale McGee at center. So Zach Collins really would be tasked. Well, Zach Collins is their starting power forward, but he suffered an injury in that final play-in game, so I'm not sure if he'll actually start. But if it is Zach Collins on Anthony Davis, there's no way Anthony Davis doesn't get inside at will. Zach Collins just simply isn't athletic enough or strong enough to really slow down AD much in the low post. If we look at maybe they put Zach Collins on JaVale and throw Nurkic at AD, AD has the athleticism advantage there, so we can take him off the dribble. He can beat him in the open court, and he can ISO him on the perimeter because AD is a lethal mid-range shooter. What will be interesting to see is the Blazers, will they go to their two center lineup of Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside that they go to, or that they've gone to at times in the bubble, to try and match whenever the Lakers play AD at power forward? Because Zach Collins would get bullied, the Blazers might try to combat that with starting Hassan Whiteside whenever Anthony Davis is at power forward. But that would kind of even clog up the spacing even more and make it harder for Dame and CJ to get inside and get uncontested layup opportunities, and that would limit the amount of kickouts for three-point shooting when you have Hassan Whiteside. So there's a lot of stuff that Terry Stotts has to consider in terms of what he values, stopping the Lakers down low or providing maximum spacing for Damian Lillard. And he'll probably prefer to do the latter because honestly, the philosophy for this Blazers team to win is probably just going to be outscoring the Lakers. They're probably just going to try to rely on their three-point shooting to be enough. Damian Lillard going the fuck off, because on the defensive side of the ball, they really don't stand a chance. So they're probably just going to try to make it a shootout. In terms of advantages, on offense, the Blazers have the advantage. Third best offensive rating throughout the year, and that was without Yusuf Nurkic and without Zach Collins in the regular season. Their backcourt is dynamic. Dame played out of his mind the entire year, especially in the bubble. CJ has been balling out, especially in the bubble. They have the two best shooters on the floor in Dame and CJ, and that can be really dynamic and lethal, and that can turn the tides of a couple games this series. And then you throw in Nurkic, who's been great. Nurkic is a center that has been known for his skill past just being your typical center. He does provide great low post scoring. He's a good shooter in the mid-range, and he's recently moved out to the three-point line, but he's a great playmaker as well. Not on the level of Jokic, but similar to Jokic. It's crazy, those players were on the same team at one point. Nurkic is a great playmaker in terms of high elbow passes and out of the low post when he gets helped on. Gary Trent's been amazing. He's turned into the bona fide sixth man microwave spark plug off the bench for them, and his defense on the perimeter has been like hella nice. Before the bubble, I didn't really watch that many Trailblazers games, so I wasn't really awake about Gary Trent's defense like that, but he is their best perimeter defender. I mean, it's not saying much on this Portland Trailblazers team, but he is a very good perimeter defender. He's pesky, he likes to get in passing lanes, and he likes to get on ball rips too. But we're just talking about offense. Gary Trent Jr., spark plug. He can create his own shot from time to time, and his shooting has been lethal. Melo can knock down shots, and he can ISO from time to time. He didn't shoot it very efficiently this bubble, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's Carmelo Anthony, and you're gonna respect his jump shot. Zach Collins could provide spacing if he's on point from three. Blazers just have a lot of guys that can create and shoot the ball and just knock down shots. And then you compare that to the Lakers offense, which struggled at points in the regular season, but particularly struggled in the bubble, especially with shooting. Like, nobody can knock down a shot for this Lakers team. during this bubble. Lakers offense always has been this year and will be for the future heavily reliant upon their dynamic duo of LeBron James and Anthony Davis to just get buckets or just draw help defenders and kick it open, or kick it to the wide open 3-point shooter in the corner. It just comes down to, are they going to hit the shot at the end of the day? Is Danny Green going to be shooting above league average from 3? Is KCP going to be Reggie Miller from 3, or is he going to be Andre Roberson? Like, there's no consistency in terms of shooting on this Lakers team from the role players, and that's kind of what's really scary about it. And then Kyle Kuzma is an X factor of a third option. He's going to have a lot of opportunities because the Blazers will obviously try to get the ball out of the hands of LeBron and AD, so Kuzma is going to have to step up like he has been in the most recent games in the bubble. In terms of defense, the Lakers had the advantage, and it's not even close, like at all. The Lakers were a team that hung their hat on the defensive end. They were third best in defensive rating. They have good perimeter defenders in KCP, Danny Green, Braun, Caruso off the bench, and they have the best inside defense. They have AD, JaVale, Dwight, LeBron on help side defense. They're really big in terms of their forward and big man rotation. They were first in the league in blocks, and it's evident because the Lakers are one of the only teams that really roll out 2 traditional big men in the starting lineup and for a lot of their rotational minutes. And even when they don't have 2 traditional big men, you have AD out there as the lone big man, a defensive player of the year candidate. And you just compare that to the Blazers defense, and they're just horrible before and during the bubble. Before the bubble, they were 4th worst in defensive rating. Their perimeter defense is just, in the starting lineup, you have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Carmelo Anthony. I don't really know what you expect there. It's not the most intimidating perimeter defensive lineup. They're actually pretty bad there. And Dame tries his best, CJ tries his best. They're just not good defenders, and they're an undersized backcourt, especially when you have CJ McCollum at the 2-guard position. And Melo is he's never been known as a defender, and he's past his athletic prime. He's going to get beat whenever he's on an island, especially when he's going to be guarding LeBron James. Their only good perimeter defender is Gary Trent Jr., and he's coming off the bench, so his defensive impact is a bit limited. They have solid paint defense with Nurkic and Collins. Whiteside will get some blocked shots. But the Lakers are a team that wants to get into the paint, and they'll be able to get into the paint with ease. And they're going to draw a lot of fouls on the Blazers' big men. When we look at the bench units, I think this is pretty close, but I'll take the Lakers here. You're just comparing the scoring between Gary Trent Jr. and Kuzma. That can go either way, but Trent has the advantage in terms of defense. You're comparing the defense and rebounding between Whiteside and Dwight Howard. Whiteside is probably a bit more of a shot blocking threat, but Dwight is a bit more savvy on the defensive end. And then after that, I think the Lakers really hold the advantage. They have more guys that can log trustworthy minutes. Caruso, a solid playmaker, a good disruptive defender, a league average 3-point shooter. Dion Waiters, he's a microwave. And then you throw in that Rondo might come back in the first round. I'm not entirely sure. Markieff Morris can be a solid, okay defending forward that can hopefully hit some shots. And then those are like your 8 through 9 guys for the Lakers. The 8 through 9 guys for the Blazers are Wenyen Gabriel and Mario Hezonja. I'll definitely take the former over the latter, so I'll take the Lakers in a close advantage here. In terms of coaching, I couldn't really decide between the two. I just said a tie. I can't really speak to the game plan of Terry Stotts, but I know he's a good NBA coach. But for Frank Vogel, I know he's a great defensive coach, evident from what he did in Indy back in the day, and it's evident in what he did with the Lakers this year. Sure, he has a great defensive team, great defensive personnel, but his defensive schemes have been on point this year. So part of me wants to give the Lakers the advantage here, but because I can't really speak to the game plan of Stotts, I'm just going to say it's a tie. And then talent level, I'm going to take the Lakers here. In my opinion, they have the 2 best players on the floor, and yes, that means I'm taking AD over Dame. They have better star power, and it comes down to the fact that the Lakers' star power, their dynamic duo, can play at an elite level on both ends of the court. The Trailblazers' dynamic duo can't really do that. Dame and CJ, they're just not good on the defensive end. They're going to try their ass off, but at the end of the day, they're not good on defense. Sure, the rest of the starting lineup, besides the dynamic duos, maybe the Blazers had the advantage there, but in the playoffs, I'm going to prioritize your star players and give them the advantage. And that leads into my pick. I'm going to give the Lakers I'm going to say Lakers in 5. I know the Blazers are riding a high in terms of making the playoffs, getting the 8th seed, beating the Blazers, or beating the Grizzlies in one game, not having to play 2. That was an emotional game. They got probably the most on-fire player in the entire world in Damian Lillard. But at the end of the day, it is a 1-8 matchup, and the Blazers are not your typical 8 seed. I know that. But at the end of the day, it's Bron and AD. The Lakers, I think they'll figure it out on the offensive end. When you have a dynamic duo of LeBron and AD, of course they will. And on defense, they'll find a way to slow down Dame. I think he'll probably get tired of having to drive on the Lakers' trees over, well, I said this series will last 5 games, so he'll probably get tired of having to take contact from the Lakers' trees over 5 games. CJ McCollum, I think he's going to be going against a better defense than he's seen this entire bubble. I think the Lakers will be able to slow him down. And then, like, defensively, Portland stands no chance. Like, there's multiple ways that the Lakers can beat the Blazers, because the Blazers have so many defensive liabilities. And in the end, I think that will just prove to be supreme. Now, I say 5 because I wouldn't be surprised if Dame just had one game where he was just hitting every step back 3 possible and had like a 50-point game, was hitting tough shots. And at the end of the day, you can't really do anything about that. You just live with it. You shake the guy's hand. He was hitting good shots. They got that one. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't surprise if he did that twice and the Blazers got 2 wins. But maybe the Lakers bias in me is saying Lakers in 5. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. And if you're new here, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyways, like I was saying, thanks for watching. It's been your boy IB. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.